Today on the Mr. Maple podcast, Matt and Tim count down the top Talon Buchholz new ghost maples.
Konnichiwa, y'all, and welcome to the Mr. Maple Show. I'm Matt. I'm joined by my brother, Tim, and we're in the middle of Buchholz week here at Mr. Maple, where we're talking about Buchholz introductions on our YouTube channel and also on our podcast. And this is kind of part two to our podcast about Buchholz. We did a ghost series last week. Today we're going to be breaking down some of the new ghosts.
Now, if you're interested in learning who Talon Buchholz is, go check out our full podcast we did with Talon Buchholz. We did one live at the Maple Society meeting where we go and interview Talon Buchholz about, him retiring. And, it was such an honor and a privilege to go and be able to discuss these things with Talon Buchholz. I mean, we've always looked at him up as a mentor to us. And if you don't know anything about me and my brother, I'm Tim, and my brother Matt's on here with me as well. We run MrMaple.com, and we ship Japanese maples directly to your door. We do over 1,000 varieties of Japanese maples, so check us out on Mr. Maple.
Yeah, now, Talon is the Michael Jordan of Japanese maples. He just is. This guy, he's won more championships than anybody else, and he did it in flashy fashion. Michael might not have, there might be more championships out there than Michael Jordan, but nobody did it like Michael Jordan. And you could say the same of Talon Buchholz. He's leading the team in scoring, and he's brought the best introductions. Let's just say it. He's got the best introductions, maybe of anybody of all time. Now, we've kind of coined this term new ghost. Now, the Ghost series is a classic set of Japanese maples. There's 9 of them. We break them all down in our last podcast. So if you want to learn about that, go check that out. But today we're going to be talking about the new ghost. Now, these are post-ghost. So basically, at one point in time, Talon got a little tired of calling everything ghost. I think he got a little flack from some people. There's been reticulated Japanese maples around for a long time. He said, you know what, I'm going to move on from the ghost moniker, and I'm going to start giving these normal names. So these are all post-ghost, ghost reticulated style Japanese maples that are in that same lineage. So many of these share parentage or are seedlings from the original Ghost series. Now, I think they stand on their own. There's some incredible introductions in this list. Several that if they had been, Brother Ghost would have fit right in with the list, and I think people would have been crazy in collecting them. And we like to kind of denote these as the new ghost because I think that kind of gives them the dignity they kind of deserve there. Now, they're not ghost maples, but they are in a way.
And the reason we put them together in a grouping is Talon continued to introduce Japanese maples after the Ghost series, and he introduced some things like Mikazuki and a few other reticulated types like Tiger Rose and Miwa, but he never used that ghost term, and he didn't introduce a series. He kept introducing a lot of other Japanese maples when he did that. Well, about 2013, 2014, he really started looking through more seedlings that had that ghost-like variegation, and then he began releasing all these new reticulated styles. Mm-hmm. We were honored and privileged that we were some of the first people to be able to get these and make these available on our website, MrMaple.com, and we started realizing this is almost like a series. I mean, this is the new version of the Ghost. This is the new Ghost. And that's sort of how that came about.
So we kind of are going to stick for this list for the purposes of making it a series and keeping it neat to that 2015 release time frame of some of the best ones that are, there's 11 of them that kind of fit into that new Ghost category. They're widely available now. And they're great plants that kind of have a little bit of parentage or lineage with the Ghost series. So they share something in common. Honorable mentions, that would be, Tim started on that, but there's a few good honorable mentions before this happened where we had Mikazuki, which was the first post-Ghost really, Tiger Rose, Miwa, Gaki no Sugi. There's a couple lace leaves that have reticulation in them. You could play around the idea of them being in there, like Mini Lace or Sweet Lorraine. But I think this 11 we've put together are kind of more of a tight set that makes sense together. They were kind of a series. Now, of that series, there's a few honorable mentions. There were 2 other ones that kind of come along way after, Right Fred and Fred's Wild Dream. And those were when Talon let a friend put a name on. And he does claim those as introductions. They likely share some lineage with the Ghost series as well, but are not as widely distributed. So with that said, let's get into what we list as that kind of 2015 class of the new Ghost.
So at number 11, because we're going to go down from number 11 to number 1 with our rankings of these new Ghosts. At number 11, we've got Acer palmatum Blonde Beauty.
Now, we laughed when we heard this because we named a tree Hot Blonde here. And so it's kind of serendipitous when you're on the same wavelength with your mentor. Like Talon was kind of jokingly putting Blonde Beauty in one of his trees as well. And it was kind of fun that at least we were, kind of similarly thinking about some of the names going on there. Now, Blonde Beauty is a showstopper. This is a reticulated Japanese maple, as all of them are on this list. But it has some really nice yellow hints to it that give it something different. And it really stands out. I mean, he could have named this Yellow Ghost, and I think it probably would have even sold more because people would have put it in that Ghost series. But Blonde Beauty, it deserves its own place amongst, those regards.
Now, Blonde Beauty was discovered about the same time as he found Sweet Lorraine. He had about 200 seedlings planted out at Flora Farm, and the prominent vein striking out on the pale cream leaves just grabbed his attention. And that's how it became Blonde Beauty. I mean, this plant is an amazing plant. I like it because it's got some serrations to the foliage. Talon describes it somewhere between Sister Ghost and Amber Ghost. And I would say it's more like Sister Ghost with almost like you can get that bleaching effect out on Blonde Beauty like you can almost with Acer palmatum Shiro. And it does that in a way that it just has those blonde highlights later in the summer if you're growing it with more sun.
Now, this one's pretty vigorous. A lot of these share lineage with the Ghost series. I would say this one stands out as being a good grower, typically in that 8 to 10 foot range, even in 10 years. Some great fall color, too. I mean, you can get some oranges, you can get some dark reds, almost purples. Really a showy fall color on this one. I like it a lot for even midsummer. So you've kind of gotten past that spring splash, and you've still got some yellow highlights going on over top of that.
So coming in at number 10, we've got Acer palmatum Black Hole.
Yeah, cool plant. So you can almost have your little celestial series here with this one in Nebula. Black Hole, one of the darkest Japanese maples you'll ever see. And I'm sure that's what Talon was thinking when he saw this one. Tim and I actually own the original one of these, and it's super dark.
Yeah, it's one of those trees that it looks like Purple Ghost. And it looks like a seedling. It was actually found as a seedling from Purple Ghost around 2008. But it is that darker version of that. And that's sort of where he gets the name with the Black Hole. Talon likes to be comical and witty with many of his names. And, I mean, you look at this, and that's what you see. I mean, you see this dark, black Japanese maple with that ghost-like reticulation.
So one thing of note, too, with Black Hole, this one tends to be dense and shrub-like. So it does tend to be more multi-stemmed than many of the other trees in that kind of ghost lineage. This one is a seedling from Purple Ghost, but it doesn't share that trait of that vigor and size. So much smaller, much more compact, much denser, and much fuller. And because of that, you do get a lot of dark foliage down low, which is pretty unique as well. Really good plant, though. I think it's one, as it gets out there more and more, it's just going to get more popular.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Black Hole. I mean, anything that can give a stark contrast with other Japanese maples is awesome. This is one of the more black reticulated style Japanese maples. And so everyone knows I love yellow. Black Hole paired out there with anything green, yellow, red. I mean, it's starkly contrast because there aren't many Japanese maples that get as dark as Black Hole.
All right, y'all, coming in here at number 9, we've got Miss Maple. And no, we didn't name this one at Mr. Maple. It just has that same kind of idea to it. Now, Talon named this one Miss Maple, and he said it had a feminine quality to it. He kind of liked this tree because it just had a grace and a beauty throughout each season. It reminded him of an attractive woman.
Oh, Talon. Now, Miss Maple, this is just a plant that really has striking, very strong contrast between the green veins of the foliage and the creamy color of the actual leaves. And it can sometimes even get almost like a lime green outline to the foliage itself. This plant, it's extremely contrasting in the ghost-like form. And so it is a very especially showy ghost-like variegation.
Yeah, he says this one has Purple Ghost as a parent, which is really unique because it's such a different color. And you get that more cream-like color going on. I think it's really nice midsummer, like right in that early season of summer where it's not quite summer and you're not quite into the peak heat. This one's kind of like a lime green with just little pink accents going on over it. And I think that's probably where it has that more feminine quality to them, because you kind of get these pink overlays and that reticulated veining to it. It just really gives it a very soft, light pastel quality to it, but it's really showy.
Yeah, he introduces around 2016. Matt has a fairly large one of these right off the edge of his porch at his house.
My Mrs. Maple loved it for some reason. My wife, I jokingly call her Mrs. Maple, but I guess technically that's my mom's Mrs. Maple if Dad's Mr. Maple. But anyway, we had to get one and put it in our garden. We can have it for Little Miss Maple for Carolina. We'll call her the first Little Miss Maple.
But it is a really beautiful plant. And it's a plant that if you give it some protection from the hot afternoon sun, you can hold that reticulation longer throughout the season. If you do put this tree in full sun, it will green up a little bit mid to late summer for us here in the heat of the South, but it typically gives a really nice shade of bright red in the fall.
Yeah, I would say it's one of the better of the new ghosts for fall color. It's been consistent for me, bright, fiery red, really showy. Another one, I would say most of these new ghosts we're talking about are good growers. A lot of them have that amber ghost-like quality. They're vigorous. They make nice tree forms. I'd put it again in that 8 to 10 foot range. And as with all the trees on this list, these are going to work zones 5 through 9. And your hotter zones are going to have to give more of these protections, especially something like Miss Maple that's almost pale in some seasons. You want to give that some protection, in your zone 8 and definitely in your zone 9 in that hotter part of the season.
So coming in at number 8, we've got Acer palmatum Jubilee.
Yeah, another good name, fun plant. Talon's an English major, so you kind of get some poetic names with a lot of these, and Talon's always looking for what's in a name. I think he's one of the people. One of the things I admire about him is a lot of his trees have really deep meanings to them. Now, Jubilee, just kind of a fun name, but it is a seedling from Purple Ghost, but he has having some similarities there more to Amber in its characteristics.
He said in his blog, which he's always no holds bar back on his blog. He said on his blog that Jubilee and Celebration were named after celebrations, like, positive things, because he's a happy person. So I thought that was funny.
He is.
He is.
Especially when you get to know Talon. I think Talon can be hard-edged to a lot of people that are outsiders. He definitely can be gruff. But Talon is one of the most giving, friendly people I've ever met in my life. And he spent so much time explaining things to me for no reason. So I think as long as you approach him with the right humble attitude, he's as positive a person as you'll ever meet. If you run up to him wanting something and acting like you know everything, watch out.
Now, Jubilee, it has more of a shrub-like form. And it is a slower grower, and it makes a nice shrub-like form in its habit. Like Matt said, it was this chance seedling from Purple Ghost, but it looks more like an Amber Ghost. It kind of has that kind of thing to it. And it's almost like a shrub-like form of an Amber Ghost.
Brian and Francis Rule have a funny term for this when they say it looks like alien skin. I always want to know how do they know what alien skin looks like? If y'all been abducted, it's a cool one though. It does have that alien skin, like otherworldly quality. It's got so many colors going on in the overlays of it. When I look at this one in my yard, sometimes it is multi-stemmed, so it is a little smaller than most of the other ones on this list, typically at around 6 to 8 feet, and it has more of a dense, rounder canopy to it. But it can be incredible shades of pink. Like I look out there some seasons and it's just glowing pink.
Yeah, the colors on Jubilee are fantastic. And this is one of those trees that it is one of the shorter ghosts for us. We've got shorter of these new ghosts in this series. Many of these other ones, like Matt mentioned earlier, are more upright, a little more vigorous, and Jubilee for us has been a little more shrub-like than many of the other new ghosts.
Now, I'll say also that Jubilee is probably the tree on this list with the most faces. It looks different every single season. This one, you can have pictures of it where it's amber looking like Amber Ghost. You can have pictures of it where it's purple and frosted. You can have pictures of it where it's lime green with pink overlays. The main color I'm getting in the landscape and a good bit of sun is more of that pink. But one of my favorite colors this can have is a little bit of shade, and you get this weird malting of pink, purple, and green at the same time. So you don't really know where the green begins and the purple starts. Like they're all one thing, but it just kind of slowly transitions from the middle of the leaf from darker purple to weird shades of green. I think that's like probably one of the more funky shades it can have. It's really a showy plant for sure.
Now, he says the word jubilee means rejoicing. And indeed, it's a biblical connotation originating from the Greek iobelos, from the Hebrew yonhi, for a trumpet or a ram's horn. I mean, that just shows you how Talon thinks through each and every name whenever it comes to this.
He's poetic. Like this guy, he's next level thinker. And a lot of his trees have that level to them. Once you really start to dig into it, you're like, I get you. Yeah, I understand what you're doing here.
So coming at number 7, we've got Acer palmatum pastel.
Another one that's probably underrated. I mean, again, when I talked about the Go series, it's Murderer's Row. They're all hitters, right? You're talking about, all Hall of Fame plants. Pastel at 7 seems like highway robbery. It is gorgeous. I mean, I think pastel aptly describes the tree. I've seen some incredible shades of orange on this one when you're giving it more early morning sun in that early springtime. Now, if you're giving it shade, you're going to get exactly what it sounds like. Some light, soft pastel colors that kind of malt into a bunch of different shades.
Now, the thing that really makes the pastel stand out is you get deep, dark purple to almost purple-black veins on pastel. And that will give a stark contrast with it. The bark for such a light-colored Japanese maple is a little more purple on pastel. And one thing I like about pastel is it really has a nice upright form. It's a strong, upright form. And this makes an excellent tree on the landscape, but pastel also has an amazing fall color. We're talking about some really nice bright orange reds, like those bright crimson reds that really just light up the landscape. And to see something go from that pastel color, from that pastel pinks to those cream colors, to then that fall color that I just mentioned, I mean, it really puts on a show.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. If you're a fan, if you hadn't listened to last week's podcast, spoiler alert, me and Talon both picked Amber Ghost number 1. I think if you like Amber Ghost, I don't know how you're not going to like pastel. It's got a lot of what Amber Ghost has and a little bit different. So, I mean, it's kind of a variation there on Amber Ghost, but it is going to share some similarities with that. I think it's got some crazier shades of orange to like red orange in the early spring. And maybe better fall color. I mean, it's close. It has a lot of what I like about Amber Ghost, but different.
So coming in at number 6, we've got Dark Knight.
How did I know you were going to do that? Because I was about to. All right. So we joke. We're comic book nerds, if you didn't notice yet on our channel. But that one is the Batman maple, the Dark Knight himself. Dark Knight is exactly what it sounds like. It is a dark reticulated form in this new Ghost series. Extremely dark, almost black veining in this tree. So it really shows out. I love how this one looks in the garden. It's kind of got a serrated look to the leaf as well. Really showy. I think giving this one early morning sun, late day shade will hold the darkest color on it. If you're getting too much shade or too much sun, it will green up a little bit. But if you can give it some early morning sun with late day shade, you can kind of pick up those darker shades and hold them longer into the season.
Talon says that he didn't know at the time that Dark Knight was a 2008 superhero film, and it was somehow connected to Batman. And he regretted the name after that.
Probably after hearing these two nerds out here in North Carolina go, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
But I like the name. I like the name a lot. In fact, if I'm out there printing labels for Dark Knight, I will often print it yellow because, it prints often with black on top of that. So it looks like Batman's utility belt.
But Talon actually said, to quote him, I didn't know it was connected to that 2008 superhero film, somehow connected to that Batman BS. So I do regret the name.
Hey, I love the name. I know many people who collect Japanese maples collect other things. And at some point, you probably collected comic books or action figures like Matt and I, and Dark Knight. Fantastic tree. I mean, you can put that out there with your Golden Pharaoh Trident maple and start collecting the super hero series from the 1980s.
I mean, we're geeks. We put the yellow belt on it. We put the utility belt label on them every time because we're nerds. But an incredible plant in its own right and a good grower. It really stands out too. I mean, it's got a lot of like what you like about Purple Ghost, but in darker shades. It has some similarities with that black hole we talked about, but a more ruffled, frilly leaf. So it definitely stands out for its serrations. And texture-wise, it's just a beautiful upright tree. It really, really brings a lot to that to the table, to what it is. And I mean, it gives you an alternative form of Purple Ghost with darker foliage and more ruffled leaves.
Many of these new ghosts, when we gave a presentation at the Southern Nurserymen Association conference in we gave our own presentation, and then later someone asked us to give Talon's presentation. Many of these new ghosts had not yet been introduced yet. Dark Knight, this is one of the ones that hadn't even been introduced
Right,
yet.
I don't think we had it at that point. We had many of them. Talon was really gracious with sharing a lot of these early on to us. So this was probably one of the later ones we got from that list. And so we didn't get to evaluate it as long. Maybe that's why I like it so much. I had to like dream over it for a while before I got it. You know? Sometimes that instant gratification, you're like, I want this tree, and then you get it right away. But that one you had to wait for a little bit. That one means a little more.
It does. So coming in at number 5, we've got Acer palmatum nebula.
So you probably heard us talk about this, but one time when we first got this tree, we first made it available, I should say. So one of the first times we were offering this tree, we were at a science and research center speaking to a garden club, and there was a gentleman outside, and he had a telescope set up, and he was actually looking at a nebula there right while we were doing it. And again, going into that next level naming that Talon Buchholz does, it was interesting to see that the nebulas were the most white in the middle and then getting darker as they went out. And that's kind of what you get with nebula. You get some really funky shades and a nice canopy to it as well.
And we were actually told that it looked very much like the nebula that's in the Milky Way galaxy. So I was like, hey, that's really awesome. Now, it can get some really nice lime greens all across this ghost-like variegation. We get the creamy pinks on the inside, then to cream whites. I mean, that lime greens give it that otherworldly appearance. You know, they mentioned that Jubilee looks like alien skin. I definitely think if I was saying one looked like alien skin, to me, it would be Acer palmatum nebula, because it can look otherworldly with those lime greens, those pinks, and everything all on that foliage.
Yeah, it's hard to describe the color on this one. It's pink, it's purple, it's got green going on in there. Everywhere you look, and in every season, it kind of changes a little bit. You know, I mentioned some of the others for fall color, but I'd be remiss to say this one isn't one of the better fall color ones as well. I've had Fire Engine Red on this one in the fall. Excellent fall colors. And it's with all these new ghosts, they're kind of all growers. Like, they all kind of get out there. This one is a good, vigorous tree at 8 to 10 foot in 10 years as well. Again, kind of what he liked about Amber Ghost. I think Callan looked at what he liked about his favorite of the Ghost series and then selected for that similar kind of shape. So this one does fill out nicely, and it's a little bit more of a grower than even some of the original Ghost series, I think.
Now, the thing I like about Nebula is its upright form. I mean, it really, a lot of people may have gotten a 1 gallon from us in the last few years. As you see this tree develop more and more, and you see this tree's nice upright form, it's going to grab your attention, especially with those reticulated style variegation that just keeps changing throughout the season. Great fall color. Nebula, this is a plant for us that's been able to handle a little more sun. I love Nebula.
All right, y'all, let's drop in at number 4 here. So we're moving along quickly, but there's some just outrageous plants on this list. Strawberry Spring, Acer palmatum Strawberry Spring. As the name implies, it's got some great strawberry reds going on in this one. Now, we do a little thing on our YouTube channel where we talk to people about their top 5 favorite Japanese maples. So it's a reoccurring thing we like to do. We do those every Monday. We call them Top 5 Mondays. And we'll have festivals out here at Mr. Maple Day where we interview collectors, our customers. We'll interview, nursery workers here at Mr. Maple. Really, anybody that wants to talk to us about Japanese maples, we'll grab a microphone and bug them. I'm shocked how much I keep hearing Strawberry Spring in everybody's top 5. It keeps popping back up. All the collectors keep having it in their top 5. I would think 2 years ago you wouldn't have seen that, but everybody's kind of getting that one, and it's starting to really catch on. I've just noticed that one, the popularity of that one has vastly expanded in the last year.
I mean, it looks in the springtime like you have a baby pink Japanese maple out there. It looks like the pink color that your wife's always getting everything in pink.
We got 2 little girls. We got a little guy now, too. But we got 2 little girls. So, man, it's been a lot of pink in our house till we got that one little guy going on.
And it looks like everything that she gets. I mean, like her tool set, everything that's pink, it looks just like that. And in the springtime, it has that reticulation with that. Then it fades to a cream. I mean, it is an amazing strawberry pink Japanese maple. And it's one of my favorites. I mean, I could have argued for this one to be a little bit higher on this new ghost list, but it's such a cool plant. Talon actually said that it's one of his favorites of his new selections. So if he was saying his new ghost, this one could be up there on 1 or 2 for Talon, is my guess. And it is, in all intents and purposes, one of my favorites of this. I mean, the next few ones, we were at number 4 right now, going down 3, 2, and 1. These are some of the best maples I think that he's introduced.
And being that there's some of his later introductions, they're some of the flashiest maples out there. I mean, these are incredible plants. This one does tend to be a little more multi-stemmed at that 6 to 8 foot range in 10 years. It has handled sun exceptionally well for me as well. Again, I'm in zone 6B. I think you would need some protection, that hotter zone 8 or zone 9 for this one. Exceptional pastel pinks on this one in the early spring. It's one of the better soft pink Japanese maples out there, and it's more consistent than some of the old classics like Aka Shigetatsu Sawa, Beni Shigetatsu Sawa. Some of those, they don't quite hit the peaks this one hits. It definitely reaches another level for me. Really showy plant overall. Now, Talon even notes that Guy Malot of France, who's another, kind of guy on that Talon Buchholz level. We just recently lost another guy, Yano-san, in Japan, who was on that level. But I mean, those are those Mount Rushmore guys. Some of those guys all around the globe. He said that was one of his all-time favorite Talon Buchholz introductions. That's high praise. I mean, that's Melot Bonsai is, next level as well. So when he's picking that as one of his favorites, it's got to be a good one.
And I just like it because it gives such a unique color. There's not another Japanese maple right now that gives the same color pink that Strawberry Spring does in the spring. And
now, I have had this one in heavy shade. Now, a lot of these can get changed by shade. I have had this one in heavy shade be almost more white with just like pink outliers, like little pink touches to it everywhere. So if you're getting it in deep heavy shade, you can change the color a bit. For the optimal color for most of these new ghosts, early morning sun, late day shade is going to give you the longest color.
I mean, the thing I like is new colors. I mean, there's so many Japanese maples out there. There's so many colors that are already out there. And when you can find a new, essentially, crayon to color your garden with, I mean, that's gonna make something special out there in the landscape. So number 4, Strawberry Spring, I could have argued it to be number 3. I could have argued it to be number 2.
Yeah, I'm almost regretting that too. I probably could have had him a little higher on the list. Now, one thing is, it is a seedling from Amber Ghost. So again, Talon often talks about how he believes Amber Ghost has the best form of any of the ones in that original Ghost series. So of course, when he's looking for progeny of that, he's picking the best. He's only breeding the best ones. So he's coming with the better form already to start with. And I think it shows in a lot of the structures you're seeing on these new ghosts, especially Strawberry Spring.
So coming at number 3, we've got probably the first of these new ghosts, Acer palmatum Frosted Purple.
Yeah, see, now, again, it's a little bit of revisionist history, but the one you got that you were so excited about always has a special place. I remember I was living at Mom and Dad's. We were very small nursery, and a package arrived to the front door. I went out and I opened up that Frosted Purple, and it was out of leaf, and I was just over the moon to have this early on. He sent this to us pretty early on to evaluate, and it hadn't really hit the market at all. I don't think it had ever been offered before that point. He sent us like a 3-gallon with a bunch of signwood on it, so of course we got busy grafting it that day. It was like, cut that wood and graft it now. So an amazing tree. And Frosted Purple is a very apt name for this one. I mean, it perfectly describes the frosted lavender to purple shades you get on this one.
Yeah, it's interesting because he describes this as a seedling of Purple Ghost or a grandchild of Kasagiyama.
Right.
Because it does have a little bit of things you like about both of those. Mm-hmm. It gets a little more purple color than Kasagiyama. It has a really nice upright form, but you get some of those lime greens that you can get with Kasagiyama that you don't really often get with Purple Ghost in there. And when you get those lime greens in the foliage where you've got that throughout the veins, it draws your attention to this plant. And it looks, at some points, right after that purple color, it goes to like this mauve color. And that is possibly my favorite time for this, is whenever it's got those green veins throughout the foliage. I mean, that's when it really looks like it's frosted. And that's where I think it gets its name of the Frosted Purple.
I think people walk up to this one and say, boy, I knew your grandpa back in the day. It's a good one. So this one, again, is going to work zones 5 through 9 and typically around 8 to 10 foot in that 10-year period. So very similar size after time. Now, one of the reasons we give a time frame for Japanese maples is because they can continue to grow. We always try to give the best advice ever for gardeners. And a lot of times people put a catch-all on there saying at maturity. You'll never hear us at Mr. Maple go, at maturity, this is this size. We think it's a little disingenuous because normally it's a catch-all term to say this one at maturity gets this big, and normally the sizes are way too small or way too big. So what they do is they put 30 by 30 on there to say at maturity. Well, yeah, how old's that? I've seen a 400-year-old tree in Japan. So we always try to give you that 10-year time frame for gardeners to kind of have the best understanding of what this will look like, in a normal gardening time frame.
So Talon says a Dr. B in Illinois has the original frosted purple. That'd be a cool plant to check out sometime.
Oh, man, great plant. And again, another one that kind of has some reds to purple in that fall color. So it's a real nice, kind of a light, soft red fall color. I've had this one kind of show out for fall. But you get some weirdness going on in this one. I mean, again, another one with green veining. Now, we're describing a lot of these for the podcast listeners. You'll have to check out some of these on MrMaple. All these are available, or not available, but all these pictures are available on MrMaple.com. And any of the trees we're talking about, you can sign up to get notified under them when they're back in stock. So if you're listening to us on the audio only, go check out some of these. I mean, this one is hard to describe. It almost doesn't even look like a Japanese maple because that green veining, those weird, almost like emerald undertones that you get sometimes to those lavender shades. Purple doesn't really aptly describe it because it's so different than purple ghost. Like you think purple ghost. This one's uniquely different than that.
Coming in at number 2, we've got a new ghost introduction that Talon almost didn't even introduce. Acer palmatum waveleaf.
Yeah, this was the accidental drop, but man, I'm glad he did. It's my number 2 on the list. It's only because there's so many good ones on this list. I mean, this would be. I love this plant. It's incredible. The way this one got introduced is Talon has this Rising Stars series where he grows seedlings and he sells them. And everybody kept coming back to this one and going, I want that one. I want that one. He had it in balled and burlap, dug it up from the farm, had it there at the gardens, and it was available. And, it just kept getting that amount of buzz about people coming up and saying, what the heck is this? And, as nurserymen, sometimes you start listening to the customers, right? Talon says with a lot of these new ghosts, he lets the market sort it out. And the market came running for waveleaf. They kept bugging him, and he goes, why am I not producing this? Like everybody wants this thing. I need to be grafting it. So it quickly went out of the sales area, as nurserymen do, and it went back to the propagation area, and it got grafted. So that way it got back into the trade. And man, I'm glad he had the foresight to not let it sell off and disappear because, it might not ever got out there. This one has some incredible shades. Now it is a dark purple form as well. One of my favorite qualities about this is how glossy it gets.
Now, this one can really get some nice shades of lavender purple to purple on the foliage itself. The veins are very prominent in waveleaf, but the glossy sheen that this gets, it's hard to capture on a photo. But when you see it in person, you're attracted to this tree and you say, I need this tree. And it just has this thing that the plant calls out to you when you see it. The leaf itself, as it matures, starts to get some waves to the leaf, so the leaf starts to twist a little bit. And that's why it gets its name of waveleaf. But to me, the glossy sheen and the way this tree just calls out to you, I mean, that's what makes this tree so special.
Yeah, again, it's almost impossible to photograph that sheen. It's interesting because you kind of get a little sheen when you take a photo anyway. This one kind of just gets a little gloss over it. It's really nice. It's a unique characteristic. Showstopper for a plant, typically around 8 to 10 foot as well in that 10-year range. I will say it's distinctly upright. It doesn't have a lot of arching out. Tends to be a nice grower. Not narrow, but more narrow than many of the other on this list.
One of the things when we look through cultivars or we look through seedlings to introduce, you often begin to learn that, certain trees just don't have the leaf texture to really make a good cultivar. Many of the trees are just a seedling, and you start to evaluate and see more and more interesting things. And when you see waveleaf, you know that is a special selection. And for me, this one comes in at number 2 because this thing it's basically like a purple ghost that attracts you even more when you're looking up close at the foliage. I mean, I love waveleaf. I'm so glad that his customers convinced him to actually get this tree grafted, get it introduced. He says that the original one is at Iroquois Gardens.
I hope it's keeping the amber ghosts there happy.
And yeah, Michael Steinhardt at Iroquois Garden in New York has an amazing garden. I talked about a little bit in the last podcast about the original Ghost series. But this plant, the original one, is right there as well. And so Talon says a number of other Buchholz originals are at Iroquois Garden. So I'd be interested to learn which other ones are original there.
I've been there and toured. Maybe we can go back and do a shoot sometime. It's an incredible garden. Anytime you're going to a billionaire's garden, it's going to be a pretty good garden, right? I mean, there's no budget going on there for that garden. It's only the biggest and the best in the originals. So maybe we can go shoot there again. That'd be a fun thing to do. Incredible plant. I'm just thankful that Talon said, hold on a second, when that was about to be sold, and he got some signs off that one, because waveleaf, incredible plant. One we'll continue to offer here on Mr. Maple. And again, if things like this are sold out when you're listening to this, you can always sign up to get notified via email. We plan on bringing every single member of this new Ghost series back. So what we call the new Ghost, you can count on those being staples on Mr. Maple for a while.
So coming in, we're all the way down from 11 to number 1 now for the new Ghost. At number 1, what do we got, Matt?
We got Acer Palmatum Celebration. I guess many of you probably guessed this. It is a dope tree. This thing is a neon pink purple ghost. So for any of those pink lovers out there, if you're a Barbie girl in a Barbie world, you got a neon pink tree. It is that Barbie pink too. It is that obnoxious bright.
I think it's more pink red. I mean, it is intense pink, and it is so showy. So showy. It is one of the most showy Japanese maples I think we've ever seen.
If you hate variegated plants and showy trees, it's going to do you in.
You're going to put this in the garden, and you're going to be celebrating good times.
Yeah, now we were joking the other day. We did our podcast last week on Grandma Ghost, and I made the joke that we had people buy memory trees of Grandma Ghost. We thought that was a little morbid. Celebration, I don't think of a better tree for a memory plant for somebody. Me and Bubs were talking about it off camera, and he recommended that too. And it's like, what a celebration it is to remember some people. So celebration
of life. I mean,
yeah, perfect tree to put out as a memory plant. It's beautiful. It's ever-changing beauty. And dang if it won't get your attention. I mean, I know Tim's going to say to pair this with summer gold because the neon yellow and the neon pink red. But you can put this next to any Japanese maple and it's going to stand out. It is one of those next level introductions. And again, Guy Malo said maybe your best one ever. So this and Strawberry Spring were the two that he really thought of this class really stood out from Talon. And I think the market agrees. I think the market would probably say that Celebration is the highest selling one of this group.
I know these top 4, Talon specifically, sent us plants on these our top 4.
And he said, get ready.
These are going to be good introductions.
When Talon calls you and he says, you're going to want to graph these. And a lot of them, they're popular. You listen to that kind of advice when your mentor tells you that. He said, you're going to want to do this one, by the way. It's going to be a hit.
Again, Celebration, it gives you a unique color of that pink red Matt was talking about, that pink that is unlike any other Japanese maple. It's completely, starkly different from the baby pink you get out of Strawberry Spring. And both of them give you more colors to use out there in the landscape. The intensity that Celebration brings is unrivaled, I think, by any other reticulated Japanese maple. And the color is extremely special out there in the landscape. It's going to grab your attention and say, what in the world is that? I mean, after it goes to that intense spring color, about midsummer, it can start getting this really unique shade of green with dark green purple veins. And it grabs your attention even then. I mean, Celebration to me, hands down, the number 1 selection of the new Ghosts.
It's a winner all around. We've probably sold thousands of this one, to be honest with you. We probably sold more of these than Talon at this point. When he told us to get ready, we got ready. We grafted a lot of them. And it's one we continue to make available in pretty big numbers on Mr. Maple. So if there's ever trees that you're like, man, that sold out too quickly, well, let Celebration stand as a testament to you that we will get it into the market enough at some point that it'll be something that's just a staple on Mr. Maple. So right now, as this video is going out, you can go to Mr. Maple right now and find Celebration because we pretty much keep it in stock all year. An incredible plant, and again, one that's highly sought after. Talon said he named this one Celebration, much like Jubilee, to let everybody know he's such a happy guy.
Well, guys, I hope you all have enjoyed today's podcast on the new Ghost. The new Ghosts are such a fun, exciting series of Japanese maples that just have that reticulated style variegation. They're very unique, and they stand out from the original Ghost series. Many of these new Ghosts, Talon actually thought were improvements on what he'd already found with the Ghost series. And they've got such amazing color.
So y'all, that's our list of our favorite of those new Ghosts. Now, again, the term new Ghost is something we just kind of created for fun. Talon said he didn't originally make up the term Ghost series anyway, so we're just kind of playing around with that. These are kind of that 2015 release class. Some of them were around before that, but that's kind of around the time frame we're talking for most of these hitting the trade. And we thought these 11 kind of fit nicely as a tight little series together. Now, interestingly enough, there are lots of trees Talon's introduced that are seedlings from Ghost series that don't have reticulated traits like Jet Black and Purple Curl. I know were seedlings that didn't turn out to be reticulated. So you'll find some of these that look like the parent plant, some that don't look anything like the parent plant. That's one of the fun things about going through new and interesting cultivars. But these all kind of retain that similar Ghost Series type habit, and therefore I think they have their own place in their own category. I mean, gosh, Celebration and some of these Wave Leaf, they're such hitters. I mean, they really add a lot to what the original Ghost Series did. All these are distinctly different from the Ghost Series, but kind of go in a different direction. So they all kind of add a lot to what's out there, and just gorgeous plants. Now, if you're not already, definitely go check out our YouTube channel. We're right in the middle of Buchholz week there. We're having a whole week to celebrate our mentor, Talon Buchholz. We're shot a lot of really fun content back in spring at his garden. So we're airing a 2-part garden walkthrough that I think is one of the greatest maple walkthroughs we've ever done. We've got drone footage, we've got gimbal footage, we've got plant discussions. Guys, we've got breakdowns of our top 5 most outrageous trees at Buchholz Nursery. So if you're a podcast listener, I heavily encourage you to get over to our YouTube channel, The Mr. Maple Show. Check out a little bit about what Buchholz Week's all about. Even if you're not listening to this live, those videos aren't going anywhere. They're still there. Get over and check them out. There's some incredible stuff. It gets me fired up. It gets me excited. And I think it's some of the best stuff we've ever created.
And if you're not a member of our Mr. Maple Friends group on Facebook, go join the Mr. Maple Friends group on Facebook and let us know what you think about our rankings of these new ghosts. And you can go in there and put your own rankings as well on our Mr. Maple Friends group on Facebook. What you think should have been number 1, what you think should have been number 5. So feel free to go in there and feel free to join part of our community.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. Remember, we just kind of made this term up. So it is a new one for us, the new ghost, but it does fit as a nice category, diverse of traits, diverse of color. And I think all of them really bring something new and exciting to the table. Whenever Talon Buchholz introduces a tree, I mean, the whole market listens. Like, that's kind of what goes on. Talon joked that with this series, he didn't really produce all of them in big numbers. He just kind of did some of them, and then he let the market decide. So the ones that everybody begged for and asked for, he did bigger numbers than those. And I think the entire series, he's still producing all these at Buchholz Nursery because they're all popular.
So thank you all for listening today. Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.